Hello and thank you for joining us on today's episode of Journalist Hangout. I am Esther Omopariola. Well, today on the program, federal government reissues fresh restrictions over rising COVID-19 cases, orders closure of schools, bars, nightclubs and others. The Nigerian Governors Forum expressed concern over security. The country's deteriorating security, say they are tired and frustrated. And later on the show, Nigerians kick as massive crowd floods NIMC's office in rush for NIN registration. I will be hanging out with Adewale Adeoye and Asukwo James. Journalist Hangout starts now. Now, the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic has caught us napping. What is paramount is how to salvage the situation. As such, the federal government has imposed new restrictions that could last up to 5 weeks. And the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 announced on Monday that large gatherings have been prohibited, while bars, nightclubs and recreational centers are to remain closed. A restriction on informal and formal festivities, including weddings, conferences, congresses, office parties, concerts, seminars and sporting activities is also in place. Now, Asukwo, when you first saw this story about these new restrictions, how likely do you think it will be complied with, knowing that we are in this Yuletide season?
Well, it will be very, very difficult, for people to comply with this. Don't forget that I was thinking that the PTF would even issue travel bans, about people coming from Europe and especially the UK yesterday, but it didn't happen. And people will still come from the UK, and you expect them to just go into their houses and not celebrate with their families is a lie. Because those same set of people will definitely want to go to bars, they want to socialize, and some people are coming all the way from that side to even do weddings and conferences. So the government should have imposed that restriction completely on, closing down the airspace, particularly people coming from the UK, which we now know that has a new variant of this virus. So the problem we'll be having will be the enforcement of these restrictions. Not that we don't know that there's COVID-19, at least for the people who want to believe that there's COVID-19, who have experienced COVID-19 one way or the other, or people who have noticed it in their bodies, or they know people who have died from it or have suffered from it. So what the government should do is to try and see how they can enforce. Because if you just bring out a law and you don't enforce, it's just like you're just talking in the winds. So the government will have to find a way to see how the enforcement, where people will not be able to go to these clubs, where people will not be able to go to these bars. And if at all we are having conferences, we are having weddings, the 50% capacity should be complied with. But who is going to check all these things? Because I know a typical Nigerian, even if you say, I've given you invitation for only 50 people, somebody would, every Owambe, if you are saying that you are preparing food for 300 people, just have it at the back of your mind that the person you are inviting will bring his son or his daughter or even housemaid. So 300 becomes 304 or 303. That is how a typical African life is. So for you to say you want to stop people, who is going to enforce? That is the major challenge. Because days back, a nightclub was shut, in Lagos. And since then, I'm very sure if you move around town in the night, you still see some clubs who have the diverse other ways of trying to stay in business. It's either they won't loud the music, or they will just allow people to come maybe one after the other and not show themselves that activities are actually happening inside the nightclub or wherever they are using. So the biggest challenge is the enforcement of these rules. Even when we had COVID-19 at the peak, around March, April and May, I remember there was a time they said no movement from wherever you are, from Lagos to Abuja, wherever. People were still traveling. people still traveled. I know people, if we go to Bega there, people will say that they are going to Ibadan. They will move from, because they know that by the time they get to point A, point B, they will find a way to, get to their destination. Some people tell you that they are coming from a lorry, they'll spend 12,000 naira. Why? Because they still want to come to Lagos, or they want to go to a lorry, or they want to go to Abuja, spending more because they have one thing or the other. So that is how the community transmission thing was spreading in Lagos, and because Lagos finally became the epicenter, and now Abuja is becoming even the new epicenter of this virus, because they are allowing people to come in from Europe and America and the rest. So the major challenge for government today will just be how to enforce.
Indeed. But Adewale, when you look at this critically, aside from containing the spread of the pandemic, there is this belief among Nigerians that this isn't real. It's another means for the government to siphon funds. So how do you think the government can manage this rising level of disbelief while trying to tackle a second wave of the pandemic?
Well, I think the level of doubt is reinforced by the general perception among people that whatever government does has to be suspected. But this is not about Nigerian government. It's a global phenomenon. It affects over 200 countries all over the world. But when you have a country where there are people, there is so much ignorance, low level of education, low level of consciousness, people doubt even anything that is real. They just doubt it for the sake of it. But I think the government needs to do more in terms of public enlightenment. I know they are doing a lot of programs to enlighten people, to make them know that this is real. And I think people should also be self-conscious. We are losing important people to this COVID-19. We are losing ordinary people to COVID-19. They are being reported every day. So I think at this level, it will be surprising if we still find some Nigerians who still think that COVID-19 is not real. People should not wait until they become victims, for them to now believe that COVID-19 is real. This period is a very difficult period, in terms of enforcement. You have festivals, you have people going to parties, club meetings, most of these things, even end of the year, general meetings of companies, annual general meetings, everything, a lot of activities are fixed for December. The crossover night. Some people have never gone to church from January to December. On 31st, you see them in church.
Yes.
Just for that night, everybody wants to shout Happy New Year in church. So, a lot of people, I'm sure, for the past 60 years or more, they have never celebrated New Year outside the church. So, but for the first time, they just have to do it. So I think, like you said, enforcement is key. And when we are talking about enforcement, we also have to look at the law enforcement agents. I was driving through Lagos today, and I noticed some policemen were not even putting on their masks. So when you are talking about enforcement, the law enforcement agencies, officials, must show good examples, so as to encourage ordinary people to emulate them. Because we have an extremely poor health system. We are vulnerable. Our diet is very poor. We have a lot of environmental hazards that makes Nigerians, over 80% of Nigerians, to be vulnerable to this disease. So I think people should be responsible. People should take all the precautions. The guidelines given by the government is good. But I think, like Asuko said, it's not enough. We need to do more in terms of having a kind of timeline. If you are giving this restriction for how long, maybe you say, okay, 2 weeks, then after 2 weeks, we renew. But there was a kind of blanket order. I would have expected to say, okay, the next 2 weeks, then after 2 weeks, you might tighten, the rule or to relax the rule. So I think government needs to do a lot in terms of educating people. They should not give up, because it's the responsibility of the people, of the government, to enlighten the people, irrespective of the level of, of skepticism. So I think people should also learn from several cases we have seen, that we are recording almost every day. I think in Imo State, they tested some 464 people just this week, and they discovered that 10% of them are positive. So this thing is real. we need to take precautions in order to save lives.
And still talking about this, the virus, we already know that there is a new entrant or a new variant of the virus, but this testing capacity that we have in the country, though the NCDC says it has improved, but is it enough? Because already we have a new variant of the virus in the UK and also getting to other parts of the countries in the world. Are we doing enough to test the level of COVID-19 that exists?
Esther, to be candid, we've not done enough, because from the sample tested so far from NCDC website is about 903,000 or thereabout, But I know that there are some states that are trying to, especially Lagos, they are trying to test more people, I remember getting a doctor, a friend of ours who's a doctor, who was trying to tell me that they never knew that this thing has, because even doctors themselves, you say, oh, please, I think I have a headache, I'm feeling feverish. It's okay, let's just test for COVID. And at the end of the day, they find out that it's positive. And they've been recording positive cases, like that. So these tests, are being carried out. Some might just be maybe the blood test, And at the end of the day, they will notice that you have symptoms or elements of COVID in you, and then they prescribe something for you. It's either isolate yourself, this and this and this is what you take. So even the doctors, the health workers themselves have been exposed, to COVID. So in testing, to know if everybody, there was a time this thing came and I was saying that they need to make everybody get tested in Nigeria. But we have a challenge. And the challenge was that we didn't have enough reagents. But I know the last time the NCDC DG came to Lagos, he said they now have enough reagents for us to carry out tests. So which is a positive thing for us. So now we need to now force people to go out and test, especially this period that we are having people coming in from, I'm not saying they are even bringing in the new variants, to Nigeria. But for us to know that we are at least safe from this new variant, because this new variant they said it's more deadly, it's contagious. Well, once you have it, it spreads faster. And it is the younger generation that is now even passing it to the older generation. So now NCDC has to help us, or the federal government needs to find how they can ensure that people test. Just like we are doing for the national identity card registration. We can do the same thing and say, okay, fine. In this local government, if you're in this local government, can you go there and test? Just do the test. Then we'll now know how many people are COVID-free and those who are not. And those who are, we don't need to even say, okay, come to isolation center. You can do that. Now there's a procedure where once you have it, they will prescribe the drugs that you can use. Even governments can even give you those drugs. And you stay in your house, isolate yourself for the number of days that will be prescribed for you, and you stay there. So we can do it. It's just that sometimes we feel as if we don't have the capacity. But we have the capacity if we really have the will. So everything is always dependent on, do we have the will? I know that Nigeria has the capacity. Because if we say today that we need 4 billion to do X, Y, Z, and if it's going to hold the government in the neck, they will bring out that money. So we are talking about the health of Nigerians. So government should find how everybody should get tested concerning this COVID. People are coming in, we are collecting money from them. Some are even being issued fake results for them to even travel out. And some even for them to even come in. So let's find how we can make sure that everybody is being tested. If it's local government by local government, people can go to their local government and get tested. If it's states, let the state. There are some states that are still deceiving themselves that there is no COVID. Let them deceive themselves. But the federal government should take it upon itself to see how everybody should be tested. Because at 900,000 in a country that is about 200 million, it's just like saying night and day. When countries like South Africa, they are testing close to more than millions. They are testing in a day. The testing in a day in South Africa is up to 1 million. I don't want to talk about the UK and the US, because right now they've gone beyond testing now. They are talking about vaccine. For you to come and take vaccine, that is their own now. They've gone beyond testing. So we should be talking about testing now. People should get tested. Let's know the number of people that have the virus. Then from there we can treat. That is the only way.
Adewale, any submission to add to this to ensure that government does the needful to ensure people go out and test and are not scared of whatever status that comes before them?
People will only go and test if the facilities are there. Some states don't have the facilities. So even when you want to test, you don't have, there's no equipment. But I think we should also be strategic enough to think of future plans, because other countries are developing vaccines like Israel, Russia. So apart from this, always responding to situations globally, what is our own indigenous situation to a long-term solution? So our scientists should wake up from the universities, and then there should be a kind of strategic plan to see how we have a long-term plan response to, COVID-19.
So because some people always say that we have scientists, and then maybe the local scientists, in quotes, the traditional herbal that okay, let's start using agbo. The agbo will boost the immune system and all that. But it has not been scientifically proven, because that is the major thing. If you know that your agbo can help, and take it to the researchers, let them check. Because we also want our locally made vaccine, to work for us. You understand? Not that you stay in one place, in one corner in Ijebubo or wherever, and you now claim that.
But let's leave that to those who know what to do, how to do that at best. But, let's look at this issue of the vaccines now, which you rightly mentioned. We already know that the federal government has imported, or is about to spend about 400 billion naira on the importation of COVID-19 vaccines and so forth. But do you think perhaps that these vaccines will get down to those who need it, that's the Nigerians, for instance, now, because many are believing that when these vaccines are available, it will be hoarded
for them first,
for the elitists, before it gets down to the Nigerian citizens who need it at most, especially the vulnerables and the healthcare workers. Do you think perhaps that would be the case, or it's going to be the other way around?
First, I think what they should do, just like they are doing in the US, they are doing it level by level. Those who need it, they started with the health workers, then those vulnerable, that is like from 60 and above, then they trickle it down, and they have years for the time lapse for them, and time space for them and all that. So I want to believe that is the same way that we will also do, whereby once the vaccines are available, and that is why I'm saying that they should see how everybody should get tested. Because, for instance, just like you're saying, if I have COVID, for instance, and I say, oh, I tested positive, I can proudly say I tested positive to it, and that I'm treating myself. You understand? If you don't see me in the office for maybe like 14 days, what happened? I want to keep everybody safe, and that is why I am home, trying to treat myself. It's not for me to, to bring it and spread it around, or for when I come to the office, people start running away. No. So people, that is another thing the government should also start to, tell people. Stigmatization will not help. It can't help. Because I remember even when they had the HIV virus thing, people were also, it was stigmatization that even caused so many deaths. So first, let's remove the stigma. Once you go for testing and your test result says you are positive, government should keep you there, give you the necessary drugs. So when the vaccine comes, and luckily if you are part of the people that you are tested positive, I think they should give you that priority and say, okay, you take the vaccine and let's see the potency of the vaccine, for people who will be infected by then. Then they can now start by level. First, the front line workers, because those are the people that we need for them to survive, for them to be able to administer this same vaccine to others. So by the time they take the vaccine, we can now trickle it down to 60 and above, then down to maybe those who have vulnerable based on their health conditions. It can be diabetes, heart disease, and all that. then from there, any other person can now take it. So if the government, it depends on the plans that the government will want to bring in. Because if they don't have a plan, a strategic plan on how they will administer this vaccine, they will just bring it and it becomes an elitist vaccine. And don't forget that this vaccine too will also have the challenge of this vaccine based on temperature. The temperature of that vaccine, what the temperature level that vaccine will need will be like less than 7 degrees. Do we have that capacity? Not that we'll now bring the vaccine and we all cut tape. We commission the vaccine. By the time we commission the vaccine, the next thing is that they will now move it to one particular place. At the end of the day, the vaccine will not be potent. It will not expire in our hands. 400 billion would have gone. So we need to, the government, if they know that they want to buy the vaccine now, they need to have those things on the ground.
Storage system.
The good storage, whereby by the time those vaccines come, we know that it's going to have the right temperature. Yeah. And so that by the time they are moving it out, that temperature is to still maintain that temperature. Because one thing is for us to buy, another thing is for us to keep it, for it to maintain that level of temperature. Because if not, we are just buying it for buying sake, like every other country will buy. So we are not saying they should not buy, but let there be a strategic plan for this vaccine when it comes to Nigeria, the people that will take it first, and even we are also going to ask for accountability in terms of where, how much, and who is going to take, because those are some of the things. We can't just say we want to spend 400 billion, and we don't know how that money will go. Because we need to know who and what the kind of vaccine we want, and the kind of vaccine that we need for Nigeria, and who is going to take it. We don't want them to just bandy 400 billion at us, and then from there, tomorrow they say they are spending the small money that they got from World Bank for vaccine.
But Adewale, even though that Asukwe has raised some valid points in this issue with the way the vaccine should be distributed and amongst Nigerians, if at all it arrives, do you think Nigerians will be ready to accept the vaccine? Because that's another issue here. There are concerns of safety. There are concerns of will it cause more harm, or will it, because there's even this belief that these vaccines have nanochips, for instance. Do you think perhaps Nigerians would be ready to accept it, or would have a little bit of hesitancy, as it were?
Yeah, I think there may not be a national consensus, but I can say categorically that some Nigerians will accept the vaccine, while some may not accept the vaccine. Because globally there is even a controversy. Like in Australia, they had to cancel 51 million doses that was ordered, produced by University of Queensland with a private company, because they ran into difficulties during the trial. So before importing this vaccine, we need to do a lot of homework. Remember, we said we brought some medicine from Madagascar,
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, we don't know what happened to that. So the government needs to carry out its own investigation, clinical trials, and then to be sure that what they are bringing in, we meet the objective needs of Nigerians. I know no matter what government says, some Nigerians will not take it. But at least for those who will take it, let us have them, especially health workers, that are most vulnerable.
All right, I understand we have a call from Ogun State. Dele, please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Go ahead. Good afternoon, Dele. We can hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yes, I want to contribute concerning your conversation, COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, the COVID-19, people knew that this thing exists. We know that this thing exists, it's real. But the problem that many people all over the world, when we talk of godly things, people will say, why are you people, you are too religious, that this thing, we don't believe in COVID-19. COVID-19 is real. But the whole world should know that God is angry with we because of we are fake God. We believe in our own technology more than God. You understand? The one that is coming ahead is more difficult than this one. It's more dangerous than this. The whole world needs to go back to God to ask for mercy. To ask for mercy. I know people will not believe. The one that is coming, it should be more dangerous than this. But we also believe in God, that even when scientists is doing their own work, we should need to go back to God and ask God for mercy. Because the revelation that's coming, that the one that is coming, is higher than this.
All right,
we need to go back to God.
Thank you very much for your contribution on the show. We appreciate your insights there. So from his point of view, definitely everyone has to correct his or her wrongs to his or our maker. So we know that we have, because according to him, we have something bigger coming if we do not address what is before us. But Asupo, okay, let me stay with you, Adewale. From what you've given your position so far on Nigerians' willingness to accept the vaccine, from what he said so far, do you think perhaps this will, one way or the other, affect the generality of the belief, about COVID? And if at all there's another virus, another new entrant, a new variant, as it were, what is the guarantee that we'll have a vaccine to that? Because this vaccine now that is already in supply, it is for COVID-19. So what's the guarantee now that this COVID-19 vaccine will even address the new variant that is even on loose?
Yeah, that is the challenge, because we're talking about a new variant in UK. We don't know if there are other variants that may come up, in the few months ahead. And that's why, our scientists, needs to do a lot of work. What is happening in Europe is that universities are they are the epicenter of the intellectual bedrock, of this renaissance, trying to deal with this problem. So our universities, and that's why it's very important for government to fund universities very well. They are not just there to produce students, but also practically to contribute to science and how to make the society better. So when we are talking about research in these areas, they are in a better position to help us. If we don't just depend on Europe, we are just consumers of goods. They bring the goods. When they will get the vaccine, they tell us these vaccines are not good, then we'll return them again. What is our own indigenous input into trying to analyze these vaccines to ensure that they actually meet our needs? So no matter what you say, some people will not believe it. They will not take the vaccine, and you can't force them. Even some people will tell you malaria is not caused by a mosquito. They will just argue with you that maybe it's one religious thing or whatever. So those problems are always there. But the fact of the matter is that we have to stick with science. We are at the same, we are not dismissing religious beliefs and all that, but this is a scientific problem that has to be addressed in a scientific way. So let them bring the vaccine, but with a lot of caution. They should not bring it here and then the next 2 weeks. We are hearing stories that they brought vaccines from the country, and it doesn't meet our needs. So they need to involve the university system, our scientists. They need to work together so that they can come with an informed position before they bring those vaccines into the country. All
right, before we go on break, let's take another call from Abuja. Friday, please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, how are you doing today?
We're good.
Yeah, thank you. I have been watching you online talking about COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to thank you for your wonderful contribution, the journalist hangout on COVID-19 precisely. But
Friday, please go ahead.
Here is that, yes, I have been watching when you could talk about federal government buying 400 million naira drugs. One of the problems I have with the Nigerian government precisely is that we don't believe in research. Can you hear me clearly, please? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that in other country of the world, a period like this is a period where people go on research to find solution into problems like this COVID-19 that is ongoing now. In other countries, you find in the United States where there are other diseases, there are other vaccines that were ongoing, like Remdesivir that was used for Ebola. Presently, they use it in U.S. Today, we don't make provision for research or when things like this comes, what should be done. Is there anything on ground currently? We are talking about we have to go on research. Where is our university today? They are closure. We have professors who are good on this aspect. Are they encouraged? Where are they today? They are at home. A government that don't care about the people. I believe that when things like this happen, is another venue to invest to learn on how you can cause situation. But Nigeria.
All right. Thank you very much, Friday, for your contribution. We appreciate it so much. Now, let's quickly go on a short break. We'll be back with more discussions on Journalist Hangout. Stay with us. Now, for the upteenth time, the Nigeria Governors Forum is miffed about worsening insecurity across the country. The governors say they are tired and frustrated as the country battles deteriorating security round the clock without a feasible solution in sight. And they called on the president to rejig the national security strategy to tackle the rising demand for security of lives and property of Nigerians. This is not too much to ask, gentlemen. Hasoko, do you agree?
Well, it's not so much, we've been saying this thing about rejigging the security infrastructure of the country, sending away the security chiefs and the security chiefs and all that. But it's like the federal government is not, trying to listen to us, or the president, as the case may be. But the thing is, I think we need to also do our own bits in terms of we're trying to be a little bit security conscious ourselves. We also need to look at even the NGF, the Nigeria Governors Forum. What have they been doing with the security votes that they also signed for themselves? We need accountability first. That is where I'm going. I want to go first with that. We need accountability in terms of that. Let's know what they've been doing, because everybody now wants to say that everything is for the federal government. The federal government, yes, they are the ones that are in charge of the police, the army, and everything. But even you as a state governor, what have you been doing with the security vote that you signed for yourself? Let's start with that one first. Because sometimes people just say the federal government is doing everything. But there are pockets of criminals around us. You can't even drive from here to your house. You can't drive from here to your house and you won't even have this semblance of fear within you that somebody will attack you. And it is across. The Northeast has been more or less overtaken by bandits. And look at what happened some days back at Kankara, whereby about 300 schoolboys were adopted. So all those, every time when we sit down, the governors will want to blame and blame and blame. They should also share in the blame. They should also share in the blame. Not that we are happy that this is happening. We are not happy that it is happening because we actually elected these people for them to secure our lives. The federal government has a responsibility to secure our lives. The state governors also have the responsibility to secure our lives. Because right now, it's like they are saying they are tired and frustrated. We elected you to be tired and frustrated for you to also make us happy. Because we can't just elect you and you say you are tired. Okay, if you are tired, leave so that another person will come and take the job. You can't be tired. Leave the position. Let the person who is not going to be tired, who will face the security head on, to deliver. That's what we are looking for. If the governors are saying they are tired, what do they want us, the citizens, to do? We can't take up arms because it's against the law. So the governors should not sit down and say they are tired and frustrated because it will get us angry the more. If the federal government is saying that they are trying and the governors are saying that they are tired and frustrated, then there's a problem. They have the access to the federal government. They have the access to the president. All they need to do is to meet the president and say, we have this idea. We have the idea A, B, C, D for us to solve this problem. If the president does not want to listen, that is when the governors can now come to us and say, we actually proposed this to the federal government, but they refused. But that is if they have that proposal. But if they don't, and they are sitting somewhere having a meeting, and then they come out and say they are tired and frustrated, then what do they want us, the citizens, to do?
Question. Dewale, that is something that perhaps you need to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to answer, because in this case now everyone is left with what do we do in this case?
I think he has, put it very sharply. The other thing we have to look at is that the Nigerian Governors Forum, it cuts across party lines. So for the first time, the two parties, irrespective of the political party you belong to, we are now speaking with one voice. Speaking what used to be the language of the opposition is what everybody now, is saying, that look, there's a security problem and they are tired. So I think that is not a step backward, is something that we should now realize that we are now on the same page. It's no longer about PDP or APC. Then I think that when the governors tell us that they are frustrated, they must come with a solution. They should not be at wit's end. The biggest problem we have now is the big problems we have: terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, cultism. That's what you see in this part of the country. In South, and violent cultism. Violent young men armed with pistols, harassing people, kidnapping people, killing people, raiding people. Then we should not lose sight of the fact that the biggest security threat is poverty. People don't have access to food from morning to night. They don't have access to good water to drink. They don't have a place, a shelter to put their head. They don't have access to the essentials of life. That is the pool. That is the pool where terrorism and violence are bred. And that's where the governors need to play a very important role. So when they are talking about being tired, there are things they can do. There are things that are beyond them. But there are things they can do. For instance, reducing the cost of governance. A state in Southwest here decided to cut the salary of political office holders. That may not be enough, but that is a striking example. So, and that people can do more. You can create jobs. You can, take the number of people that are unemployed, put them into farming, give them water to drink, give them food to eat. Once people don't have access to the essentials of life, they cannot, no housing, no food, no jobs. Definitely, an idle hand is a workshop for the devil. So the governors it's not just enough to tell us that they are frustrated. They must come out with solutions. We are talking about state police. Let them take a position on that. That look, it's time for us to decentralize the security architecture. Let's not decentralize, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. Exactly. So when you have everything that is built around Abuja, the IG must give instruction to the DPO in the Karanamoda, in Sokoto, in Ekiti. Just one person. He has to wait for the other. You can't resolve security problem. We need to decentralize, security. And I think the governors should move ahead to come with a template that should be submitted either to the National Assembly or maybe to the presidency.
Now, Asukwa, with the concerns on the capability of the nation's security architecture, whether or not they have the arrangement to protect lives and property, do you think perhaps the call will begin soon enough for this change to happen? Because everyone is saying that the president needs to, let go of the service chiefs. And if at all the service chiefs are not being let go, the service chiefs need to resign. What are your thoughts?
But if you are talking about resigning, it is always very difficult for a Nigerian to resign when they're in a position. It's very, very difficult. So, but if you look at it, we've been calling and talking. I know the number of times on this particular table that journalists hang out, talk about security, concerning either replace or even remove the security chiefs. But nothing has been done. But we'll keep talking. That is our own. Our own is for us to keep talking. So what we really wanted, if the Nigerian Governors Forum, they really want something to be done, that should be one of the things that they would have said. Because I know part of the things that they said that there's some merchants of death are using young people as cannon fodder. Who are the merchants of? Why can't you list the merchant of death? Let's know them. By the time you put them, you write their name. You see, that is one thing about Nigerians. We know that there's a problem. And we will not talk about that problem, but we will not mention that problem. If I am hungry, I will say I'm hungry. Not that it be like say I be hungry. No, I am hungry, I'm hungry. So that you can find solution to my problem. So because when once you say merchant of debt are using the young people as who are the merchant of debt, can you be specific with it so that we will be able to know that okay, this is the problem that we are facing, and then we'll deal with it. So part of these problems that we are having is that people are not being specific with them. We don't want the security chiefs anymore. Please, can you change them? But it's becoming a problem for the last interview that the president had. I think he made something, an allusion close to that most likely they might be changed. Most likely. But we don't know. Because it depends on who is going to go and tell Mr. President and say, those guys are doing a good job. Let them stay there. But I'm very sure some of the security chiefs, service chiefs, they are even tired themselves. They want to go and retire. They want to retire. But the president is keeping them for a purpose. You know? Just like Jide will say, Jide is saying that there some people are telling the president some things that, you know, is listening. You know, but for this, we are not happy with what is happening. Just like Adewale has said, it is time for even the state governors to begin to think of ways to engage these so-called cannon youths that are used as cannon fodder. If a youth knows that he has a roof over his head, he can eat at least, I'm not saying 3 square meal, because 3 square meal is even for us that are working, is even difficult. 2 square meal, let's start with that. And he has something that is engaging him, which I think most especially is either IT, is either we engage them in ICT or we engage them in agriculture. Because those are the 2 major things that we can engage the youth on. If we engage them in agriculture, full-time agriculture, and they are seeing money, they are seeing money to help themselves, to fend for themselves and even their family, and they are involved in something that will engage, tax them, you know, their brains, they won't be involved in crime. Nobody can go and tell them and say, come, let's go and cause commotion somewhere. So the governors, I'm giving the governors an idea now. Not that they don't have idea, they have the idea, but they will always hide. So we are giving them idea on this table now. Engage the youths. Write every local government, tell if you don't have a job, put your name down. Let's start to engage them in not skill acquisition. If it's going to, you are going to use skill acquisition, use it. Look for professionals who are good IT experts. Engage them in ICT. Engage them in agriculture. If you travel from here to Ibadan, you will see land, arable land, wasted. If it's one family that has the land, put the youth there. We need food. Because there's nobody that can stay in this country that will not eat. Tell them to go into agric. And agric is big business now, Esther. Big business. So you put them in this, do like a settlement farm for them. Let them be there, let them be working, let them be eating there. At the end of every weekend, they can go to their families. So the governors can be involved in that, rather than waiting for the federal government to begin to share money.
All right.
You know, because if you wait for the federal government to begin to give handouts to the youths in terms of engaging them, because I know there was a particular, the program that was supposed to come up by the Ministry of Labor that was stopped is going to start in January. How much will that one be? You know, it won't be enough for them. So, but we need them to be engaged meaningfully. And I believe every youth, that if you give any young person the opportunity to be involved in farming, to be involved in ICT, they will do well.
Indeed, youth engagement is the key to resolve this issue in one way or the other. But we have a caller from Imo State. Please, your contribution.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kesandu.
Great to have you on the show. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You see, why the governors, this is not an excuse. It is not an excuse, like as you correctly said. We voted these people to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians. And it is quite disheartening and unfortunate that up to this moment they're trying to give us flimsy excuses. It is totally unacceptable. Why we actually appreciate or tell the federal government, who is the first responsibility, that is the responsibility of protecting lives and properties of Nigeria. I think it's also high time that the state government thought out of the box to find a way. See, I appreciate what the Southwest governors did by Amotekun. Every other person should emulate such things. Let us find ways to
people. Let me tell you, like you people are saying there too, another way of getting our youth out of this is let us engage them meaningfully. If we actually engage our youth meaningfully, they will not have moral justification whatsoever to indulge in crime. So it is high time our governors, most of them are not really thinking out of the box. If you go to the various states, there are no factories, even if it's little factories that can actually produce toothpicks. When you engage these people, they will not even have time to go to crime. Sport is there. How many of our states are putting so much in sports? They're not even investing in sports. You know what sports is doing all over the world? These are making so much money out of sports. So I think the governors should not give us some of these excuses. They should rise up to their responsibilities and ensure, because Nigeria belongs to all of us and nobody's more Nigerian than another. Why I also plead, Mr. President, let us sack the Sadistas. They have done their best and their best is not good enough. There is no vision with them that is setting in. It is less the properties of Nigerians we are talking about. One Nigerian, the blood of one Nigerian is worth doing so many things for.
Thank you very much.
And death are too much in this country. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution there, Kisandu. But Adewale, with what he said, it's not far from the truth. Definitely, the governors need to up their game if we're to have this put behind us. But let's look at this insinuations now that perhaps to address this, we need to call, there should be a call for a state of emergency in the states concerned. Do you think perhaps that could be another way to resolve this issue?
Well, a state of emergency, it could just end up being a slogan if it has no content. You can just declare state of emergency and so what? So the important thing is that what do we want to do? It's not just about state of emergency, just because you want to give the impression you want to work. What is the plan? If you declare state of emergency, so what happens? Because we are talking about youth. We've forgotten that, when you are 16, 17, if you have a child of about 5 years, put him in this place, he will scatter, he wants to touch everything. At 16, 17, young people are adventurous. The mind is green. Anything can settle on that mind. It feels like somebody sitting on top of an infinite ocean, inexhaustible ocean. He wants to explore the world. So anything that can settle in that mind, if you bring terrorism, he will accept it. And that's why I brought people engage their younger ones. In Israel, in the US, when you are 18, you go for military training. For 1 year, you are with the government, not just military training. They impact ideas on you about the state, about the country, this of the country, and when you come back, you are a different person. When your child goes to boarding school, the first time, let him come back, you see that the child will be sober. So we need to engage our younger. You mentioned sports. In those days, youth are engaged in table tennis, football competition. One secondary school, we have, St. Finbar's, CMS, and it was big, huge fun. Yes. It engaged our younger people. They had something to engage them. But when you leave them idle, no sports, no economic inclusion, no nothing. Anybody that invites them to terrorism or violence, they will go there. They will, so we need to engage them. If you don't engage them, we take a very high risk of, leaving them in the hands of bad gangs.
Asuko, final thoughts on this issue?
Well, just like Adewale said, we need to engage our youth in terms of sports now. Let me use sports, for instance, because I know even when we are young, we are in secondary school, we used to have this inter-school, sports, whereby one particular school will come to our own school. It's either soccer, cricket, basketball. I doubt it if they still do that, because even I know in my own school back then in Rando, because I went to a Muslim school, and people would not know, but I went to a Muslim school. Back then in Rando, we had a very big field. I don't even know if they have even converted the field to another thing now. A very big field that we'll be playing soccer. Schools will come, we'll play. Sometimes we leave our own school, we go to King's College for cricket. So even till today, I still tell my children that that game, I used to play that game when I was in school. Basketball, the same thing. You learn all these sporting activity in school. So by the time a child grows up to, to learn and to get himself engaged in all these sporting activities, nothing will even make him to start thinking of going into crime. Rather, he'll be thinking of how to, help himself. That is why I keep saying, apart from sports, let's engage our youth. The state governors, the Nigeria Governors Forum, should stop saying that they are tired. We don't want them to be tired. We want them to be thinking, how to engage our youths. Let them engage our youth. They have the money. Cut down on your governance. By the time you cut down on governance, use that money, cut down on security vote, or you cancel the security vote if you are tired. Remove the security vote, put it in ICT, put it in farming. Let the young ones that you have, the youths that is in your states, be engaged meaningfully.
Right.
Do not wait for the federal, because the federal government will tell you that they are doing their best. But we want the state government to take it upon themselves to also help in seeing that there's security in their own states.
Right, we have a caller, Uzoma. Please go ahead with the contribution. All right, since we've lost connection with our caller there, but let's quickly move on to our next issue. We're talking about the NIN registration, where offices of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, nationwide are under siege, not from attacks, but by Nigerians desperate to obtain the national identification number. Now, this followed directive by the federal government that telecommunications operators should block SIM cards without NIN, and the commission was subsequently forced to extend the registration deadline till February 2021. So, Adewale, we have an extension of the NIN registration by another 6 weeks. Yeah. Some Nigerians might be happy. Do you think perhaps that development or this development has quelled the situation in most NIMC centers?
Yeah, well, let me first say that NIN registration is a very good thing, you know, which we should have done a long time. It's very good for national planning. It's very good for even to fight corruption. You know, it's also very good for crime detection, you know, and monitoring financial transactions. So I think because with your SIM, if I'm here, as I'm here now, you can know if you have, you know, the control system. You know the particular place that I am. So you know this person owns this number. So I believe one of those things that prompted the government because of this current situation. They want to track down criminal elements. That may be one of the reasons. So I think it's a very good thing. But the way we are going about it, I don't think we are taking into consideration the public good, because we started this thing I think some 4 years or 5 years ago, and we have not been able to register even 50 million people. So how did we want to register, let's even say the next 100 million people within a period of 2 months? 2 months. And then we are in a period of very high health challenges, COVID-19. You are asking people to put on masks, to social distancing, and at the same time, you are giving deadline that people should go and register for NIN. And then the centers are so limited. If you go, the banks were the ones that gave us BVN. I thought they should have collaborated with the banks because they did it in a very effective way. You go there, within a short period, you get without giving anybody bribe. And that we have about 222.4 million Nigerians who have bank accounts. So I felt the office should have collaborated with banks. There are banks everywhere, and it's more accessible to people, you know, and you can go there from morning to night. And I don't understand what the government is trying to achieve. It's going to inflict a lot of problems on people. It's going to even help spread the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, let me hold your thoughts for them because we have a caller, Yakub from Lagos. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening, Azuko, and then Sadewale.
Good evening.
I think, Azuko, when we talk about insecurity in this country, I think you have said it all. To me, I always have this thinking that we always blame the federal government in everything that concerns insecurity. But we seem to forget about the state governors, you rightly said earlier, because these people are collecting security votes every month. And then if anything goes wrong in that state, they will be shouting that the federal government are not doing anything. But the citizens forget that the paramount responsibility of even the governor of a state is security of the property and the life of the state citizen. So, but I would say that our constitution still has a lot to do, because the government was always telling us that they don't have rights on the police, that is commissioner of police in the various states. We need to amend our constitution in order for us to be able to hold them accountable, because we call them chief security officer of that state. So I would say that the next question that you just talked about, I don't think the government is going about it very well, because you are telling us the pandemic is already going up again. And then you are still telling us to go and make sure that we do this thing in the very short period of time. How do we go to do it? Because I think the networking people, they should be able to give us their code.
All right, Yakubu, thank you very much for your insights there. Apologies for the break in the network or the connectivity there. But, you know, okay, I understand we need to go on a very quick break. You're watching Journalist Hangout. When we come back, we'll have more discussions in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still on to Journalist Hangout, and we're discussing the federal government's extension of the deadline for NIN registration by 6 weeks. And already there are concerns about the registration being an avenue for the spread of COVID-19. But Asukwo, we had the last caller saying the president, or rather the government should have done there should have been another way to, you know, ensure that everyone registers, you know, for this NIN, for this national identification number, as it were. But, you know, with what Adewale pointed out, that the BVN is another means for us to have this registration process perhaps seamless, you know, but what's your position on this?
No, the thing is, what I noticed is that all the agencies, federal government agencies, it's like they don't talk to themselves. This agency wants to outshine this agency. This agency wants to do its own, you know. Because I feel, just like we are saying about the BVN, we would have at least tried to see if the BVN will work with the national identification number registration. If it will work. And if it will not, that is when we can now say, okay, tell the telecoms. Because I know if you are talking about, there are two particular places that you can have your biometrics, as in done like this, and which everybody is a must that you must have, which is your phone lines, and they have close to almost 190 million subscribers, active subscribers, or your what is it called, your account, bank account. If you go to any bank today, if you want to lodge any money, at least they will say, put your thumbprint, you use it. Apart from it, because most people in Nigeria, they don't have international passport, they don't have passport. So we will not say we will have that large number of people traveling out. But those two, your phone as well as your bank. So if the national, what is it called? The NCC wanted to merge anything, Communication Commission. If they had wanted to merge anything and make sure that everybody has this number, what they should have done is, you call the banks, call CBN, then you call the telcos, you sit down with them. Can this thing be possible?
Harmonize.
You harmonize it. Then those ones who don't have, that is when you can now say, okay, fine. If you know that you do not have a SIM card, you do not have a bank account, that is when you can now say, go to, what is it called, the management, the NIMSI. That's when you can now say, go to NIMSI, go and get that, and then go to the bank. Or you register there right there. Because right now, we are having a pandemic in our hands. And we are telling people to now go out and go and take registration. Some people are already making money from it, because if you hear stories of people who will go to all these so-called, in quotes, places that they say go and register, they will tell you bring 5,000 naira, bring 3,000 naira. People are registering to make it faster for you. But I feel that the agencies of government are supposed to work as a team, whereby this BVN, we have done it. And BVN, it took them almost 6 months. I remember that time they even extended. So now if you are going to the bank, there is nobody that doesn't have BVN in Nigeria today. That even some politicians, when they want to siphon or do whatever business they want to do, they try to find a way for them to make money for themselves without the BVN, but it's not possible.
And I understand we have a call from London. Ade, please go ahead with your contribution.
You just kept me holding on.
Oh, sorry.
Apologies.
Okay. Well, one of the things I want to say, I think Asuko has mentioned it. You see, in Nigeria, I just feel sorry because we have a very good president. Unfortunately, people are taking advantage of him, like the ministers. How can a minister just wake up in the morning and give 200 million people ultimatum of 2 weeks to register? He's never done any civilized country. Before a minister equivalent in the UK can take a policy, they must discuss in the cabinet office, they must get the approval of the prime minister, they must have talked about it before telling the people. But in Nigeria, a minister can just wake up in the morning and say, give this policy, everybody will go. Let a lawyer go to court and say, this thing is wrong. Because how can you, many people will die from this thing. It's wrong. How can you have people? Remember, people in diaspora, we have bank account in Nigeria, registered to our phone number, Nigeria number. They want me to fly to Nigeria and register name? It's crazy. Who is going to do that? For what? All the foreigners in Nigeria, are they going to have name number? I mean, they didn't think properly before they say things to, they make us laughable in the international world. Let a lawyer go to court and stop it. You see, this must be a continuous exercise, maybe in the next 1 year. The criminals, they don't care about you register or not register. They still commit their crime. They will use the phone of those people they kidnap to call the victim. How about that? So this thing doesn't make sense. They should stop it. That minister, they should remove him immediately.
No, that one is left for the president to decide.
You want me to come to Nigeria and say to get a name number now because I have an account in Nigeria? It doesn't make sense.
All right, thank you very much, Ade, for your contribution.
You know, even I remember JAM too, this NIMSI, they tried to force those who are trying to sit for JAM to get registered, to have a national identification number then. But it didn't work. They had to just, you know what, because even they don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity for it. If you go online now, type, people have been complaining that they even want to even get the form. For them to even get the form, they download and fill. It has, you can't even go there because it's as good as error. That's the only thing you see. You see error. So it's as simple as that. Like you can't even get the form online. The next thing is, if you can't get the form, you have to go to their office. So and the world has moved past that now. The world has moved past. So if you can register your BVN, you have registered the BVN, you have accounts everywhere, you have your phone. Because even mine, I had to do it with my phone. I didn't even bother because I have NIM number already. I did it with, I think, Airtel, but the other 2 lines that I have, the telcos, they are still, I'm still waiting for them. So these are some of the things that the NCC would have done. Get the telcos involved because they have my number, they have my phone number, they have everything. So the only thing they need is just this number, and I have it. So you force people to try and get this number. If you want to force people, give them enough time. And it is not even now. Look at what happened on Monday. Now we now have super spreaders. Because when once you see a garden as big as they call them super spreaders. So they will now go there, collect you that you are negative before, were COVID negative. You go and collect positive this infection because you want to get a number. So Nigerians are all, you know, the thing is, we need, sometimes you look at Nigeria, we have so many brains in Nigeria.
Right.
People that can bring ideas that will make life easy for us. Because every time the government brings out policies,
okay, I think we have a call.
It's like they are trying to suffer us.
Let me hold your thoughts for there, because I know you are really passionate about this issue. But let's quickly take this call. Abati, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Please, I want to contribute to the program on the TBC now.
Go on.
I want to commend you people for the effort that you are putting in educating our leaders on what to do. Charlie Asuko and the other man there, your contribution is really encouraging. But I want to say that you are saying this because your mind is not polluted. Our leaders, before they bring their program out, their mind is already polluted. They have their selfish interest at heart, and that will not allow them to bring out the program that is benefit the masses. You know, this NIN registration, there must be reason for bringing it out at this time and also in the timeline they give to us. This is just to create opportunity for the staff or the NIN or whatever they call themselves to make money. Because they know that people will come in large number and they'll be charging them, as Asuko said, extra money to do this thing. I know there are other better ways of doing this thing without going through this stress. I personally cannot go for this thing because I know the condition of COVID-19 now. I cannot go and queue because I want to register for NIN. They should look for a better way of doing it instead of congregating us in the place, just like you show us on the picture just now. Our leaders, they have good policy, but the selfish interest that they have is influencing that policy. The intention is not actually to benefit us, but to benefit majority of the staff that they have there.
All right, Abati, thank you very much for your contribution on Journalist Hangout. So, Adewale, from what he said so far, the true purpose of this name registration might not be clear to Nigerians, but what do you understand could be the singular purpose for this name registration, even though it is to unify or to have an identity number for every Nigerian, but what is it out to achieve?
Well, I think every democratic country, if every great country should be able to identify any individual, your citizen. For instance, if anything happens to anyone, we should be able to have the background. This person, so, this is this person. It will help us to detect crime. It will help us to fight corruption. You can't have children and don't know their numbers, you don't know their names. But you see, we are fond of policy somersault in this country. Immediately we started with SIM cards. We should have also started with years back. Now we are seeing the consequences. We are now rushing up and down. Like he said, it should be a continuous process. There are about, for instance, Côte d'Ivoire, we have about 2.5 million Nigerians there. What if some people are just coming back home? They say want to come and settle. They are coming in January, or they are coming in March. So they because they don't have link, they can't operate their telephone numbers. It should be a continuous thing. I know there are good reasons, but the reason what I don't understand is why the terminal date that you are giving us a deadline. There's no need for deadline. It should be a continuous thing. People must be encouraged to go and do it, and then you can go at your leisure time in the next 1-2 years. But to say you must do this before, what is that's so special? That that you want to stop? Is it that you want to stop Boko Haram between now and February or what? So this desperate situation they want to put every Nigerian, I don't think it is necessary. Like someone said, it will encourage corruption. It is going to cause stampede. And people may even lose their lives. When some 3-4 people die now, you say, oh, we are going to cancel it. You should have known the consequences. And I think there was no adequate consultation. There was no consultation with the CBN, no consultation with the banking sector, with the financial institutions, no consultation even with the National Assembly, not even consultation with the state governors. And that's why I see some members of the National Assembly came out to oppose the deadline. Exactly. There was no consultation. So this is supposed to be a public institution. It means you have to run it, take into consideration public good. Before you come out with any position, you must consult. You must meet people and tell them this is what you want to do, and then you come up with a very good template. So I would not be surprised that by February, they will extend it again.
Asuko, what do you think can be done to perhaps retrace the steps that we've taken? If at all the government needs to extend or lift the deadline, what will it take for the government to look at this critically?
I think it won't take the government anything. We need we call it national identification number. I'm a Nigerian, and you want me to remain a Nigerian. I don't need a passport for that. All I need is just a number to identify that I'm a Nigerian. And that identification should just be in a database. We've not even started talking about data privacy, protection of data. That one is even another issue entirely, because very soon people will start talking about that one. Because if I give you my data, I should also ask if it is protected. Because I can't just tell you I'm living in so, my number is this and that, and at the end of the day, I will just see somebody in front of my house. So I hope that one too will not cause another problem for NCC later. But even at this, we need it to be open. So that even if a Nigerian who has stayed outside Nigeria for a very long time is coming back, you should be able to walk into anywhere. You shouldn't go to NIMSI office to go and register.
Right, let me hold your thoughts there. We have a caller, Agbaje from Port Harcourt. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I sincerely want to commend the two guys you have at the stadium and
thank you so much.
Want to actually comment on your topic. You see, the problem we have in this country is that when you have Minister A, they want to make money from one thing or the other. Because I don't see what has stopped the minister or the ministry from collaborating. Since the banks have the data, or with the Nigeria Immigration Service, because some persons have gotten their, the passport. Now, this again, starting again afresh, and with a period where we have a pandemic, I don't see how we can sustain it. And if you see the numbers, the pandemic, the numbers of the infected person, this thing is increasing on a daily basis in the country. And you want to subject us to going in to continue to do this registration where everybody will gather and will continue to say we are doing a registration. I think this is not necessary. They are trying to just make money from when we say we don't even have much in the country. So I think I would recommend that they should collaborate with the banks that already has our BVN. Then from there they can get the data they need. And even the data you are giving to these people are not secured. I must tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's true.
Baji, thank you very much for your contribution there. So Adewale, even though that Atiku has said almost what most Nigerians, have been appealing to, and your point as well, do you think perhaps the government might suspend this registration process altogether, or it will continue with the process?
Well, it depends on as the realities unfold. But I think now we are even talking about urban areas. What about people who live in rural areas? And they have telephone. How do you want to register them in?
They will have to travel from there.
Travel from there to, you know what that means? Sometimes you travel for about maybe 100 kilometers in the north. 150, 200, just because you want to go and do NIN. So I think the government, by the time the government is confronted with realities, I think the government will bow to good conscience, and I think the government will be compelled to extend the date from February. That is what I see. If they don't do it, they will just discover that so many millions of Nigerians are excluded, because and not out of their own, not out of their own making, not their fault. Because I don't see how the miracle they want to perform. The structures and institutions are not there to ensure that we register more than 100 million Nigerians between now and February. It's just not possible. It's not possible. Given the structure, the capacity of the National Identity Management Commission, I don't think they can do it.
They can't.
But if they want to do it, let them prove it. Let them provide in every local government, in NIN office, and then to make sure that they decentralize the crowd. But with the structure they have now, I don't see how they can. And I don't think this is the best way to encourage people to go out and to put them in the desperate situation. You need to give them timeline to have enough time to be able to go, and do it.
No, I think it should be, if it's identification, it should be like during when we wanted to register for BVN, they will tell you, you can't operate your account.
Sure.
You can't operate your account except you register for BVN. And right there,
you do it.
You do it.
Yeah.
They will ask for your data, everything they type, then you do it. It should be like that. We are talking about identification, so it should be like that. So even if they want, just like you are saying, collaboration, if I want to do anything, banking transaction, I should be able to go to my bank and say, I want to, and they say, do you have so-so number? I say, I don't have. They say, okay, fine. They should have a system whereby even the bank can generate the NIM for any individual bank customer to do it immediately, and then from there you do your bank immediately. So it's just the collaboration that they need, you know, because if they don't, you will find out that you will keep having this issue. People will still converging on that particular center, and then they will keep spreading this COVID.
Well, let me hold your thought now. We have a caller, Kwemi from Songwater. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I would like to contribute to the topic for this evening.
Go ahead.
Yeah, personally, I just think it's a very welcoming idea for individual Nigerians to have a national identification number. But I just feel the ministries themselves are not even in collaboration with themselves. Personally, I feel the minister should have consulted the Ministry for Health. Should have consulted a lot of stakeholders so they can decide on what and how they can go about this. I can personally tell you this, that the Mimic website, personally, I've tried logging into visiting the website. The site is down. The Mimic office in my area, we went there to try and register. If you cannot imagine the number of people who were there, and we are saying we have a second wave. This should be like a year. This should be like a year process for everybody to actually enroll for this.
Yeah. You've been your point there. Thank you very much, Kwemi.
Let it be, let's assume that they are going to give a deadline and say, okay, in 1 year, maybe up to now to October. But I know that some Nigerians will not register because there are some people that they will say it should be still October, it's still October. Just give up to October. That October, the last day, you see some Nigerians rushing to the center, you know. But when once you link it up with something that is vital to any Nigerian, for you to get Nigerians is easy. Link it up with something that is very precious to them. Their bank accounts, their phone numbers. And say if you do not register just like that, that's what they are doing now. But for now, just make sure that, encourage people. Like I'm talking about banks. Just make sure that the telcos are involved, whereby they can easily walk into any Airtel center, I'm doing advice for them, into any of the telcos, the center, and then from there, let them register those things. Because we need to make it seamless. Because Esther, we are talking about data protection. Apart from even the passports, do you know even driver's license? If you want to collect, you also go, you do biometrics, they'll capture you, you do this and that. You have not even said anything about that one. So, by the time I have, another question you should be asking is if after having, all this, I am having this identification number, if my driver's license expires, will I need to go to the what is it called, to road safety again to go and sit down and capture myself? You understand? If my passport expires, will I need to go to the immigration for me? Should it be something that I would just, in the comfort of my home, type that, okay, my passport has expired, which day should I come?
Let me hold your thoughts there, because I know you have a lot to say, but we have a call from Paris. Please go ahead with the contribution.
Okay. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, please. Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you very much. And kudos to two of your participants there. Asuko and Mr. Adewale. I'm speaking on behalf of most of us in diaspora. I'm speaking from Paris.
Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
You see, we have seen how our leaders are trying to do to satisfy themselves, except they take the consideration of other people that are not even around. You see, what we need to look for now is solution. It is easier from all the suggestions that people have been mentioning since. If the ministry needs to collaborate with the central bank, with each person that has account number, they can generate a new number to link it with your video number. Yeah. And you have anybody to go to the bank, that bank will just give them. We are contradicting ourselves with the current situation where you said people should stay at home and come out again to come and change for the number. Please, we should behave like somebody that has a plan for his people, who has the interest of his people at heart. The other time that I say, I don't know the real side then, that 10 people should come to the stadium to come and register for jobs. A lot of people died. It's not quite different from what is about to happen now.
All right, Salam, we appreciate your insights there, but because of time, thank you very much for your contribution on the show. Adewale, final thoughts on this before we wrap up.
Well, the government should do adequate consultation, before coming out with any policy. This is what we have seen over and over again. And I think they should go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, exactly. Because look at in Ghana, they have this same thing, identification number. They actually used it for people to vote. So we need a situation whereby by the time we have, everybody has the national identification number, we should be able to use it for our own benefit. Not that would, like I was saying something about passports, I should not go to immigration to go and capture again after they have captured me in my national identification number, except they want to tell me that the last time I captured, I was maybe 20. So I have to now come back to, to change my facial looks and all that. But the thing is, we need to also, the government needs to also tell us the reasons for doing this. Then from there, make it seamless, so that people in the diaspora will also can even register, and every other person will do it very seamlessly.
And that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you very much, Asukwa James and Adewale Adeoye, for your insights on the show, Journalist Hangout. And that's it for today's edition. Join us again tomorrow for another episode. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Esther Mokwarela. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.